Hello folks, welcome back to the Urban Rider Studio, where today I'm talking about navigation. In front of me I have one of the first items I ever reviewed for Urban Rider. This is the BEELINE Moto, and I actually have one of these for myself, and I genuinely still use mine to this day. However, I've become a little bit choosier about how and where I want to use that, and I share the load between my BEELINE and my phone. You can see here I have a quad lock case on it as well, so I can mount this on my bars. Now, if I'm in a mood for exploration, I will still go to the BEELINE. If I want the familiar sight of Google Maps and I want turn-by-turn directions, I will go to my phone. But ideally, I'd like something that bridges the gap, something between the two that could replace both. And that's where the BEELINE Moto II comes in. It builds on the impressive design of the BEELINE Moto. It has the same sort of simplicity to it. It's got the same sort of aesthetics as well. It looks really neat and clean on a set of bars, but most importantly, now it has turn-by-turn navigation and a map that is displayed on the color screen there, which is also about twice the size of the original screen from the BEELINE Moto. There are a host of other improvements across it, which I'll get onto in a few moments. So like I say, on occasion, I will use my phone for navigation, but I begrudge doing so for a few different reasons. Firstly, the fact that it is quite big and cumbersome on the bars. Secondly, it's a little bit distracting because obviously this has a lot of different notifications popping up through the day, and I don't need to see those whilst I'm out riding. The whole point in getting on the bike in the first place is so that I can put that to one side and ignore the rest of my life whilst I get out and enjoy the ride. I also absolutely detest cleaning bugs off the back of my phone, and ideally I wouldn't like to leave my phone exposed to all of that road grime and dirt. And I know my phone is waterproof, but I still don't like risking it on the bars, if you like. Crucially, this has my whole life on it. So if something were to happen to the phone, that would be a much bigger problem than if it happened to my navigation tool, which I only use for maps. And although this has an impressive battery for a phone, and phone batteries are getting better with time, having all of that stuff on the phone definitely does drain it quicker, much quicker than it would be on the BEELINE, which is only handling your navigation. There's also the question mark, although it is still unclear nowadays what sort of extent the damage to your camera could be with certain bikes, certain vibrations, and certain phones. And they do a vibration dampener, which I use on my quad lock, so presumably my camera is fine, but there is always still that question mark in the back of my mind whether it's doing a good enough job. And I'm sure it is, but I just don't like having any doubt where that's concerned. Now, on the other hand, we have the BEELINE Moto, which is obviously very simple. It's got great battery life. It is very functional and very usable. However, it is extremely simple, and that can be a blessing and a curse. It's great that it's just got those easy instructions to follow, but there are certain complicated junctions where you'd probably want more than just looking at an arrow in order to navigate it. And sometimes you can get away with that, but you know, you don't really want that if you're time critical as to where you need to be. If, however, you're on a day of exploration and you just want to find some new roads, I think this really comes into its own for a few different reasons. One is their app. You can choose between either using the fast route or the fun route, and that has improved over the years that even I've been using this, and it will find you some fun roads to go and explore. You can also rate certain roads that you want to revisit, which is often hard to keep track of whilst you're out on a ride. Sometimes it's hard to remember the roads that you've actually gone past, and you might want to go back and revisit them. That's where this is fantastic. Then we come to the BEELINE Moto II, the second generation, much improved from the original. So it still has a really simple design. It's still really clean looking, and you can get this in a host of different finishes. So you can either go for this one here, the simplest version, which comes in at £180 as of the making of this video, or for £200 you can get one of the metal variants. In the box, as well as the unit itself, you get a charge cable. It now charges using a USB-C port, which is fantastic. That means I can use the same cable on my phone as my laptop and the BEELINE. It makes it a lot easier to adapt and a lot more versatile when you're actually out and about. It has a 600 milliamp hour battery, which means it has a battery life of around 14 hours. Now, if you're on the bike riding continuously for more than 14 hours, Firstly, I'd say you've got some bigger problems that riding alone simply cannot fix. Maybe seek some help. Secondly, if you need this to continually go past 14 hours, they actually do a powered mount for it as well, so you can stick it on there if you need to. On this version, it uses an ASA polymer casing. It's also got an aluminium bezel around the top, and it is pure black. It's really sleek. It blends into your dash nicely. And you also get a universal mount in the box, which is also black. On the previous version, it had some yellow flashes to it. So I prefer, and I think the same consensus is true of their customer base, this being fully black. It blends in a bit better. What I should say though, is if you have the mount for the previous version, it will not fit this. They've changed the back of it ever so slightly, so it does mean you need a new mount, and that's more of an issue if you had the bigger metal mounts, the fixed mounts if you like, as opposed to the universal mount, because of course you get a universal mount with your unit itself, so you can just swap those out. But if you're hoping to use the permanent mount, then you will need a replacement, and those are around £30. Then of course we have the much improved interface. So if I just turn this on and link it with my phone, syncing the two up actually is really quick and easy to do, and it won't take more than a few seconds. Instructions really easy to follow as well. Opening the app, you can see you can go through the settings and change various things on it. I have to say the default settings are actually fine. And then just make sure that the unit is updated and that the app on your phone is updated. The reason I say that is with mine in the past, with the BEELINE Moto, the original, I did notice that after a certain amount of time, my phone disabled certain permissions to do with the app and the phone. You'll want to make sure those are always active. A tiny, cute little point that I love to see back is this bike that you can see rotating around the bezel. It also actually does a great job of showing how much bigger that screen is over the original. It's about twice the size of the original. If I just hold this up to the light, you can see that it's the center here that actually has the screen on it. The outer is just black plastic. It's a color screen. It also has an anti-reflective coating and a hydrophobic coating to it as well, which will mean that it will be really clear no matter what conditions you're riding in. And if it does rain, you'll be happy to know it is fully waterproof. It is rated to IP67. It has something they're calling a rocker top. You can see these sections around the side there indicating that you have directions that you can press on this to navigate the menu system. So you press it down when it's on your bars or on a surface in particular. You can go to the options, you can tweak certain things in there. There's also an LED light at the top to flash up and indicate when there's something to pay attention to. And it also has a speaker as well. Something you'll want to be familiar with in the settings and preferences is the route default where it says fast. I tend to like to stick that on fun, because what is riding a bike if not fun, or at least it's supposed to be. So that will find you fun routes. You can also vote and tag certain routes as well. And if I just get up a map, for example, and choose to go to the Urban Rider store, I've also got an option for compass mode, which will just give me a bearing. Now in London, I wouldn't recommend using that, but if you're out on some country roads and you know where you want to get to, but you want to make your own way there, you can obviously just stick this on as a compass and it will always hold the bearing of the place you're trying to get to, and then it's up to you which interesting roads you decide you want to take. If, however, you prefer the familiar sight of a map, you can go for that option instead, and that is obviously one of the big improvements of this version. And like I said previously, you can rate the route that you're on. So you can either hold down the right to say you like that road and you'd like to revisit, or the left to say you did not like that road, and I feel like I'd be using that a lot more in London, but that's useful for you. Obviously you can store that information and revisit places, and it also feeds back to them so they can improve their route setting as well. The rest of the menu system is really easy to navigate, so you can click through and see various different options and then obviously set it back to the map whenever you need to. If you'd like to see this for yourself, you can check for links in the description. If you have one yourself in the future, feel free to drop your feedback and comments in the comments section down below for the rest of our viewers, and I'll see you soon.